Hi, it's Lee, and welcome to the Tesla Economist. We're hearing more concerns of demand in the community. This is mainly due to Tesla recently dropping prices again in the US. And again, we're also hearing the debate about whether or not Tesla should be advertising to stimulate demand rather than lowering prices. And before you comment about the fact that Tesla would never advertise, they want to save costs and pass them on to the consumer, they sell every car they make, etc. Well, just remember, Elon has said on several occasions that Tesla may well advertise. It would be used more as a way to educate the consumer rather than just have celebrities endorse the product or some other trite marketing strategy. Tesla have so many great features that I don't think the majority of people still understand yet. I mean, a lot of you are Tesla owners and Tesla lovers, and how many of these features have you explained to people you know that they were not at all aware of? How many of you have showed these people how well the car drives itself, and they had no idea? And then all the other features, and the actual driving experience. A lot of people probably still have it in their minds that they think Teslas are expensive, yet a Model Y now has a competitive cost of ownership to a Toyota RAV4. There's a lot that can be done to let consumers know what is available in a Tesla, but a lot of investors are very anti-advertising, whereas others are saying that Elon is just being stubborn. Tesla are trying to identify the correct market price for the number of vehicles they plan on selling in the current economy. Once this price has been found, then Tesla will have enough demand for all the Model 3s and Ys they produce, and hopefully still remain reasonably profitable. Although relative to the current cost of goods sold, we may be talking about a gross profit margin of around 16%. But that's the base of where we are today. That is Tesla selling all the cars they make, which is a much higher number than last year. From there, Tesla just need to work out how to reduce the costs to increase that margin again, and they have plenty of time. Yes, admittedly, 16% does sound a bit low, but Tesla just need to save $2,500 per vehicle, and then we're back to 20% margin, which makes a big difference, especially when we're talking over 500,000 vehicles a quarter. The Model 3 and Model Y are no longer high-end vehicles. Tesla can give them a complete overhaul and reduce costs. They can use less powerful motors to save cost, but reduces performance slightly. The biggest changeover they could make would be to go from 2170 cells to LFP cells, or probably CATL's new M3P cells would make the most sense. And Tesla might do something like this when they update the two models this year with a facelift. I'm pretty sure that alone would save over $2,000. And if I can think of that, then imagine what Tesla can think of. Tesla is no longer a prestigious brand. Prestigious brands require exclusivity. Tesla wants to reach the masses. They need to lower prices to reach the masses still, and this has to be done by lowering costs. Of course, Tesla is more than just an auto brand for the masses. It will be the high-tech brand with the most advanced self-driving features, which means people should be willing to pay more for it compared to the competition. But people have to be able to afford it in the first place, and most people can't. We're talking about almost 2 million vehicles a year from just two models though. That is quite extreme, and despite these prices already coming down, they're still far from the lowest cost models on the market. I think eventually, over a few years even, the prices of the Y and 3 will come down more. A lot of this will be due to the battery costs, obviously, but some of it will be due to Berlin and Texas finally realizing the dream that was Battery Day, and these models should saturate the market of something around 2.3 million units a year. Remember, Tesla still delivered 300,000 Model Ys alone in Q1. When you annualize that, it comes to 1.2 million. That is a lot of units. That is a lot of demand. And the price point is a lot higher than anything else that came close. Well, perhaps except the Ford F-150, but Tesla has the Cybertruck to compete with that. Tesla still have about 500,000 more Model Ys a year to produce from Berlin and Texas combined. I used to expect these to be even lower cost than Shanghai Model Ys. I hope I'm still right, with cost of goods sold per vehicle aiming for perhaps around $35,000 when 4680s are finally ramped up. Basically, all Tesla need to do over the next few years even is try and shave off about $5,000 per Model Y. Most of that cost saving likely can come from battery improvements or alternatives. That would reduce costs enough to reduce prices to likely have enough demand for over 1.5 million Model Ys globally and still retain around $10,000 gross profit margin. And Tesla are working on this relentlessly. The next step is for Tesla to make a lower cost model. They have to, in order to generate substantially more sales. Although, according to the Master Plan Part 3 white paper, vans are half as popular as mid-sized vehicles. So if that is anything to go by, then Tesla could likely sell between 500,000 and 1 million vans a year. So this is another option. The van will obviously have a higher price tag than a compact, and a lot of people who use vans do a lot of driving, and as vans are larger, they're heavier and thus consume more fuel. In other words, an electric van would be a good return on investment for many people. However, again, also according to the white paper, the van will be using high nickel cells, and there don't appear to be enough for another 500,000 units a year yet. Therefore, I think it likely that the first Gen 3 vehicle will indeed be the compact. Okay, so if Tesla are to grow at 30 to 50% compounded annual growth, as we already are close to 2 million a year run rate, we need 1 million more sales a year for 50% growth. We don't have that capacity at the current factories for vehicles. We need a new factory, i.e. it has to come from Mexico, and it has to be a vehicle that has enough demand for 1 million or millions of units a year. Tesla aren't going to build a Gen 3 Model 3 or Y in that factory. It's going to be a lower cost vehicle. It has to be. We've been told about how much lower cost Tesla have worked out how they can build electric cars. If a Model Y is so popular that at a price point of $45,000 or so, it could sell over 1.5 million units a year, then we have to wonder how popular a potential $25,000 Tesla may well be. I would guess at least 5 million a year. It would probably take 2 to 3 years to ramp up enough battery supply for those vehicles if Tesla are working with CATL. However, this new LFP factory in Texas, where the two are partnering, may consolidate both their battery knowledge and experience. Although I wouldn't hold your breath for dry battery electrodes. I'm expecting it really to just be CATL's M3P chemistry. CATL are building huge capacity factories these days and are getting more experienced. So possibly just one factory in Texas and maybe one in Europe might be sufficient. Then when you consolidate all the other models Tesla are planning, we might be at around 10 million production a year. Then possibly another 10 million a year for robotaxis to hit our 20 million target. If you zoom out a bit though and look at the whole global picture of what is happening, then in my opinion it comes down to whether you think electric cars are indeed the future or not. The majority of you think that electric cars are probably above 50% market share by 2030. If you believe this, then Tesla is the one that will benefit the most from this growth. On top of that, if you believe in climate change too, or at least believe that the governments are reacting heavily to it, then Tesla is at the core to benefit the most from all government incentives in that movement. To conclude, Tesla can increase demand by lowering prices, by reducing costs. Tesla can increase demand by advertising, likely at an additional cost of about $500 per vehicle, which, sure, Tesla would rather pass on to the consumer. But we're still only talking around the low 2 million in terms of deliveries currently. The real demand lever isn't advertising, it's a lower cost vehicle. Sure, and the potential of FSD. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.